Welcome back to the Andrew and Ian Show. I'm Andrew Serwick here again with Ian. Hi, Ian. It is the semifinals, college football playoffs, and the start of the NFL playoffs this weekend, man. Very fucking exciting time. How you doing this evening, man?
Doing pretty good. It's starting to get to the playoff time in the football year, and it's a really good time. And then that leads into the worst time of the year for sports. But, we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, we're not quite at mid June, mid July, that time of year yet. We still got a lot of playoffs for both football, and then we have the NHL and NBA playoffs as well, and March Madness coming up soon too. So that'll be exciting to get into. But let's get right into it now with some college football. We have tonight, actually playing right now, we have Notre Dame and Penn State in the Orange Bowl. Penn State currently leads with 20 seconds left in the second quarter, 10-0. Although Notre Dame is driving, they are in Penn State territory now, so they might come away with some points here before the half. Penn State comes into this game a point and a half favorite over Notre Dame. Notre Dame was actually favored on the open this week, but now that has changed to be in favor of Penn State by kickoff. So, my prediction was Penn State's going to win this game. I think just the massive size advantage that they have on both sides of the ball is going to play a big factor. And I mean, you saw it earlier on the drive before this Notre Dame drive. If you were watching, I mean, Notre Dame's offense was just Penn State's offense was just wearing down Notre Dame's defense, and yeah, just it. I think Penn State just has it all. Now that said, there's the James Franklin tax, right? We know James Franklin in big games loves to choke. I have a feeling Notre Dame could win that just because of this, and because Marcus Freeman's a dog, right? I mean, that he is a hell of a coach. So there's a good chance at that. But I do think overall Penn State will win this game, and they will get themselves a trip to the Natty.
And that's the biggest point is, will James Franklin find a way to lose this game, right? We know the Notre Dame defense is very good. The offense is all right at best. And it's pretty much the same story on the other side for Penn State. The defense is very good. The offense has flashes, and they're all right. I'd say I have more confidence in the Penn State offense than I do the Notre Dame offense, just because I believe we've seen more from Penn State, considering they hung in there a little bit with Ohio State, and they've already played a game against a contender like that, and Notre Dame's schedule consists of a loss to you know who. So I have confidence in Penn
A
State in this
shitty
one,
MAC
and
school.
yeah, case in point. So not being in a conference and playing that conference championship to kind of alleviate that kind of lessens it for Notre Dame. But well, like I said, we know the talent they have. I wouldn't be shocked if they win this game, but I was picking Penn State to win this one in a close one.
Yeah, I would not be shocked in the slightest if James Franklin blows this one. Tomorrow night, in the Cotton Bowl, we have the Texas Longhorns and Ohio State Buckeyes. Ohio State comes into this game now a 6-point favorite. They opened the week at a 5-point favorite. They're now a 6-point favorite. Ohio State's playing better football than anyone else in the country right now, or I should just say anyone else in the playoffs right now. Or even just better than anyone that was in the playoff field to begin with. I mean, they are dominating everyone. I mean, they opened up a 34-0 lead on Oregon last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say. They dominated Tennessee in the, greatest way you possibly could dominate, a team that, one, can't throw a forward pass like Tennessee, but defense dominated, offense dominated. Texas comes into this game. They have a really, really good defense, one of the best in the country all year. Problem: their offense has been horrible, especially in the playoffs. They have not been very, very productive. Quinn Ewers hasn't looked all right, and I mean he can't run on that ankle that's super, super beat up. Uh, I think if Texas really wanted to get past Ohio State this week, they would have to play Arch Manning. Like they would have to play him, but they won't. So I'm gonna roll with Ohio State to win. I think they won't cover that 6. I think this will be a close game because I think Texas's defense will keep them close. I'll be cheering like hell for Texas though because I mean I can't cheer for Ohio State, even though I don't want to cheer for an SEC team. I gotta cheer for Texas because I fucking hate Ohio State. But this is going to be a good game. It's going to be very, very close. I think this will be a much lower scoring game than anticipated, although because the over/under is at 53.5. I think that under is a very, very possible thing to hit here.
My biggest question in this one is, can Texas, A, contain Jeremiah Smith, and B, can they keep up with him and that Ohio State offense? If you can't stop him and he has a performance like he did against Oregon, you're calling game in the first half at this point. Ohio State dominated the SEC team they played in the first round, 42-17. Granted, SEC teams can't play in the cold. We all know that. Here they are, next week, 41 points on the number 1 team in a revenge game. Ridiculous. That offense is on another level. Losing to Michigan in the last week of the regular season lit a fire under this team's ass, and winning the Natty here might save Ryan Day. I don't know if you want to do that, but at the end of the day, I'm going to roll with the Buckeyes. I hate to say it, but I'm thinking we're going to get a Big Ten championship. And sucks to say SEC, but so much for being the better conference, right?
Yeah, look, SEC is dying. NIL and all that shit has completely taken away every single advantage that the SEC had in terms of recruiting and, more importantly, retaining players. Because there's blue bloods that are not in the SEC, that are in the Big 12, that are in the Big 10, that are, I mean, even if you want to, I mean, there's really no blue blood in the ACC. Unless you want to count Miami, but Mario Cristobal tax. But anyways, yeah, I mean, look, I think we're gonna get an Ohio State versus Penn State rematch from the regular season as well this year, and maybe James Franklin will extract revenge. I just think it's gonna be the funniest thing ever if James Franklin wins a natty before Ryan Day. Like that would just be like chef's kiss hilarious to me. So like I am trying to manifest it, but yeah, we'll just have to see about that. So that is going to wrap up obviously college football for the weekend. So now we're going to head on over to the NFL. Wildcard weekend begins. We're going to start Saturday here, 4:30. Texans hosting the Chargers. The Chargers, a 3-point favorite coming into this game, and it makes total sense. First of all, the Chargers are playing great football. Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. You can't deny it. To take a 5-win team last year and turn them into an 11-win playoff team. Yes, you're a wild card team. You're not a division winner. But they're building towards something. They're building something there fast. Jesse Minter's defense is elite. Texans' O-line is super depleted, and it's super undersized as well. CJ Stroud, the reason why his numbers haven't been good this year is because he hasn't had time to throw the ball. And, that's been one of their biggest problems all year. You can only do so much, right? The Chargers offense, I mean, Justin Herbert's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, 3 picks this year is, I believe, one of, if not the lowest, for a starting QB this year. Although his numbers aren't as impressive as they have been in the past because they're running the ball a hell of a lot more. Not so much as of late because of Dobbins being out, but uh, they're still very good. They can do everything that they want to on offense. I'm going to roll with the Chargers to win. I think they do cover that 3 as well. I think, they'll win this by at the very least a field goal, which means they cover. But I think a touchdown will separate the two at the end. I don't think it's going to be a blowout either way.
You said it. That Texans O-line has not been good, and it hasn't been good all year. CJ Stroud was sacked, I believe, the second or third most in the league this year. I'm pretty sure only Caleb Williams was higher than him, and we all know why that happened. So that's not a good position to be in if you're CJ Stroud and you're playing this Chargers defense, which gave up the least amount of points in the NFL this year. So for a coordinator who was told in college that he was only successful because of Connor Stallions, what's he doing now? Is he back out there, or is he actually legit? So I'm rolling with the Chargers on this one. I think they cover that 3. That defense is that crazy good, and that offense is good enough. And with Jim Harbaugh running the show and getting J.K. Dobbins back and into the game and up to game pace before the playoffs is a really good bonus to have. And Houston's going to be without Tank Dell, and it's a big blow. And when you're starting to go against this Chargers defense and you're already banged up, it's not going to be a good time.
No, it's not going to be a good time at all. And like I said too, that offensive line it's undersized for what it is with the backups that they have in. And yeah, look, the reason why the Texans are even really in the playoffs is because the rest of the division is so bad. And I mean, Indy's bad, but they're knocking on the door. I think if things go right for Indianapolis, Texans might not make the playoffs next year unless they make some big changes that they need to. Saturday night, we have the Ravens hosting the Steelers. The Ravens, a 9.5-point favorite in this game. Look, the Ravens have been playing very well as of late. Lamar Jackson has really turned into an actual quarterback instead of just a running back that occasionally throws the ball. Steelers defense has been good all year, but it's not super elite. These teams have played each other. They're both 1-1 on the year against each other. I think this game could go either way, but it is in Baltimore, and I think that home field advantage for Baltimore is going to play a big role in this game. And also, Russell Wilson ain't what he used to be anymore, right? We'll see what he looks like in a playoff game for the first time in a few years, but I just don't think it's going to work out too well. I'm going to roll with the Ravens to win here, and they will not cover that 9.5. This is going to be a close game. It's going to be a bloodbath, quite frankly, and I think really, and it's proven every single time this year. If Derrick Henry, well, not every single time, but it's proven 5 out of 7 times correct this year. If Derrick Henry doesn't rush for 100 yards, they lose. So if the Steelers defense can shut down Derrick Henry, they have an outside chance, but the offense needs to show me what's up.
And that's the biggest key is, can you stop Derrick Henry? Like you said, 5 out of 7 times Baltimore's lost when he's rushed the ball for less than 100 yards. And the Pittsburgh defense is very capable of doing that. You do have more pressure on the passing game with Lamar, knowing his history in the playoffs. Also, adding on top of that, Zay Flowers is confirmed out for this game. You're relying on other players now.
I forgot about that too.
That's a big hit.
That's a
At
huge
the end
hit.
of the day, you got Derrick Henry to rely on now, and that's going to be the key for Baltimore to win this game or lose this game. If TJ Watt and the Pittsburgh defense can not only get to Derrick Henry and Lamar, it's going to be havoc. we've seen this defense do things, and we've seen Baltimore, that yes, they've made it to Super Bowls in the past, but Lamar has to beat those playoff foes, and he has that key this year to do it. I'm going to roll with Baltimore. I have more confidence in them to overcome Pittsburgh's defense. I just don't think Pittsburgh's offense can play that well against an okay ending the year Ravens defense.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? Is the Ravens defense, for the first 11, 12 weeks of the season was terrible. But the last, 5, 6 weeks now, they've been a very, very, you know, better defense. I'm not going to say really good defense, but they've been middle of the pack the last 5 or 6 weeks now. But yeah, Zay Flowers out. I forgot about that. That's going to be huge. But I think, yeah, I think either way it's going to be close. Zay Flowers definitely hurts, and I think that helps the Steelers' defense kind of maybe make the Ravens' offense more one-dimensional. And also, I want to see it from Lamar this week. Can you show me, if you win this game, I think the Ravens have a good chance to just win out the rest of the playoffs, except for maybe the Super Bowl, because I don't think they're going to be stopping the Lions or, God forbid, Philly. Sunday, we have the Bills host the Broncos. The Bills, an 8-point favorite in this game. Broncos getting the win that they needed over Kansas City to get themselves into the playoffs. And, I mean, you kind of figured that they would have gone all out in that game because Kansas City rested everyone. And they played their starters for a half, got up big, put their second string in, and still kept scoring after that, which is good to see. But the Bills, I mean, Josh Allen's unstoppable. I mean, he is truly, truly unstoppable right now. And maybe I'll bite those words when I see him play Kansas City in these playoffs. But look, the Broncos, their defense isn't that good, and rookie QBs tend to not play well in the playoffs. But what Sean Payton has done with Bo Nix, I have confidence that the Broncos can at least be somewhat competent in this game. Because again, look at what Sean Payton has done with Bo Nix this year. I mean, you wouldn't have expected this sort of a run with a rookie QB like this. That said, I think Buffalo is overall a much better team on both sides of the ball, and Josh Allen is, I think right now, the best quarterback in the NFL. So I'm going to roll with the Bills to win. And I think they can cover that 8. But I think they only just cover that 8. I think this game will be relatively close between these two, but I think Broncos by 8 is not Broncos. Bills by 8 is very, very likely to happen.
It's the battle of the Seans. Yeah, you got head coach Sean McDermott and Sean Payton. Benefit goes to Sean McDermott, obviously, for having the veteran quarterback who, like you said, is playing arguably as the best quarterback in the league right now. And it's pretty hard to argue against that. I mean, even looking at stats, yeah, sure, he didn't throw that many touchdown passes, but consider he ran for, over 10 touchdowns. Then you start to notice that his numbers are a little better, but at the end of the day, this game has potential to get out of hand for Denver if their defense isn't up to snuff. But if Buffalo doesn't have great ball control, this Denver defense is very capable of keeping this close and close enough for Bo Nix to work his magic and steal a game. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to take Buffalo to win this game. Josh Allen just playing out of his mind right now. He's on another world. And like you said, it'll take Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs to see what we really will get from Josh Allen out of this one. But Denver, you get to see Von Miller in the playoffs just playing on the other side, so it's a neat little story. But at the end of the day, I think he's going to be one of the key factors to Buffalo winning this one is that defense gets to hound it on Bo Nix at the end of the game.
Yeah. 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 Just. Uh-huh. The Eagles host the Packers. The Eagles, a 4.5 point favorite in this game. These two teams faced off in week one earlier this year. Eagles winning that one 34-29 in Brazil. Um, so, that was it was an interesting matchup. Jordan Love went out. I mean, it was so it was a weird game because I mean obviously it's in Brazil, right? But anyways, Eagles come into this game with one of the best defenses in the league. In fact, I believe they're still number one in terms of yards against this year. Um, and this is a Packers team where offensively they haven't been looking all too great this year. Jordan Love, uh, hasn't been performing to what we thought he would be this year. I thought Jordan Love would have a much better stat line than he did this year, but he just hasn't. Eagles obviously also have Saquon, who has had a great season. Rushed for over 2,000 yards this year. 13 touchdowns on the ground as well from him. Uh, this is going to be a close game, I think. Eagles, again, 4.5 point favorite here. I just think the Eagles, with the way their defense is playing right now, even though the Packers have a good defense, the Eagles have the best defense in the playoffs right now. Well, yeah, they have the best defense statistically out of any playoff team, right? And their offense is good enough to put some points up on this Packers defense that is good, just not that great. And a Packers offense that hasn't been playing well, struggling the last few weeks, with exception of last week. I think the Eagles win this game. I think they cover that 4.5, but I think it's going to be very just barely over. I think they win this one by 5, maybe 6 points. But that said, Devil's number, Packers might have a very good chance here.
I think the biggest question is how are Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, and AJ Brown going to play? If AJ Brown even plays, because he didn't practice today, and you play Saturday, and you're not practicing on Thursday, that's not a good sign for me, especially if you're playing a playoff game. You'd want to do your best to at least be limited, but not practicing is pretty rough. And Jalen Hurts is coming back after 2 weeks from a concussion, and he hasn't had any game to, you know, play into this, so he's being thrown immediately back into the fire. And Jordan Love got injured last week, and we don't know, or I don't know what it is. And I think he's going to be okay. He's presumably starting, but they won games with Malik Willis and backup, so this game could be potentially just bad because both of these squads are kind of coming in injured or coming off injury and haven't had the time to really come back. So I don't know really. I can't end in a tie, obviously, because it's a playoff game. Someone has to win. But the fact that it is that 4.5 point favorite, I don't like that. And for a team like Philly, whose defense has been playing very well, from what we saw, from Green Bay the past few weeks, I think they would be even more of a dog than just 4.5. So I'm going to roll with Green Bay here. I don't like to, just because that means they're playing the Lions in the divisional round, but I think we see Green Bay take down yet another NFC East team early in the playoffs at their place and then lose in the divisional round.
Honestly, if we play the Packers, I mean that's the dream matchup for us as Lions fans. I think. I mean the Packers haven't been able to stop us at all year. I'm just saying. I mean, like, I hate rooting for the Packers, but I will be rooting for the Packers for this game because I want the easy, divisional round game. But yeah, and then Sunday night we have the Bucks hosting the Commanders. The Bucks just a 3 point favorite in this game. The Bucks have been kind of underwhelming all year. I mean, Baker Mayfield's been lighting it up, but He also lights up the other team, giving them the football back, right? Um, but Baker, obviously, a 4,500 on the nose in terms of yardage this year with 41 touchdowns. I mean, he's been insane with production despite the interceptions. Um, but the defense, that's, I think, the biggest question here. Now, the Commanders, they're coming in with a chip on their shoulder. They thought they had maybe a good chance to win their division this year. Couple bad losses, you know. Here's the interesting matchup, though, that we have to look up. Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore. Mike Evans was probably the happiest man ever when he found out that Marshawn Lattimore got traded to the Commanders. Because whenever he played the Saints, Mike Evans had the worst games of his career against Marshawn Lattimore. Big rivalry between those two players. But now he has to go and play him again. And I think that's going to be a big factor here. I think Marshawn Lattimore will shut down Mike Evans in this game. So Baker Mayfield's going to have to look in other directions to score points and get this offense going because they don't really have a great run game. I mean, Bucky Irvin ran for 1,100 yards this year on 207 carries, but their run game hasn't been great. Now, their defense is good. Vita Vea is back. He's been back. I mean, he's healthy. So that's going to help at least this against this Commanders run offense. But what can this defense do against this Commanders pass offense that is really good and really talented, especially with Jaden Daniels? I think the Commanders will get the upset win here. Again, I think it's going to come down to the fact that Marshawn Lattimore just knows how to shut down Mike Evans, and that's going to make Baker Mayfield lose his favorite target and someone who's been his favorite target all year. And the Commanders are going to slip away with a win here.
I think you hit the nail right on the head. Marshawn Lattimore, the bane of Mr. 1,000 Yards existence. You love to see it. My only problem is I don't like this game being at 8 o'clock just because I think Green Bay, Philly probably should have been 8 o'clock. That doesn't matter. This is still going to be a really good game, and it's looking like it's going to be a boat race. And if it is, it's going to be great as someone who's a fan of a team with the 1 seed, just watching this to watch it, to see who we're potentially playing. I'm also rolling with Washington to get the upset here. If Green Bay doesn't win against Philly, that's another matchup I'd like to see against Washington. Baker Mayfield, if he doesn't have Mike Evans, I mean, consider, he lost Mike Evans through part of this year. He lost, who else was it? One of his other wide receivers. Chris Godwin. And still put up 4,500 yards by the end of the year and 41 touchdowns. You got to give him some credit. And this Washington defense, outside of Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Sanders we've seen what he did at Michigan. We know what he's capable of doing. So they can stretch that field a little bit as best as they can with Baker. Washington has the DBs to compete with this, with that Marshawn Lattimore acquire in the middle of the season, and they're going to see that come to fruition here.
Yeah, I think that battle is going to be very interesting to watch. And now we get to watch it in prime time in the playoffs for the first time in like forever. So it's going to be very interesting. And then Monday night, the Rams hosting the Vikings. All this game is going to be played in Arizona because of the wildfires around LA. And we send prayers to all those affected out there in California and the LA area, and hope that whole situation can get settled here shortly. But anyways, the Rams will be Still the home team, although I think realistically, if you really wanted to get the Rams a home field advantage, you play this game in St. Louis because there is a NFL ready stadium there with their UFL team playing there in St. Louis. You could put it there because there's still a lot of diehard fans, Rams fans in St. Louis. You could have put it there and really given the Rams a real home field advantage here. But anyways, the Vikings come into this game a 2.5 point favorite. We saw last week in Week 18 how fraudulent this Vikings team is. They did not beat a single team over 500 this year. Well, I take that back. They did beat Green Bay. They didn't beat a single team over
They also
500.
beat Houston.
Well, that's basically like beating a sub 500 team, anyways. Um, but outside of that, I mean, they barely beat any good teams. I mean, they struggled against a
Beat Seattle, but again, they were barely.
yeah, right. They struggled against a very bad Jacksonville team. Couldn't even score a touchdown against them. Last week with the Lions, I mean, the Lions with a very banged up defense, they couldn't even score a touchdown there. And Sam Darnold under pressure. This Rams defense likes to blitz a lot, just like the Lions defense was doing in Week 18. The Rams also beat this Minnesota team earlier this year. We were on vacation watching that game. You, I, and Mike actually, and laughing our asses off the entire time at the bar watching it. Anyways, I think the Rams will win this game because I think the Rams will do exactly what the Lions did and exactly what the Rams did in the first game this year when they played each other. Rams are going to blitz like hell against this Vikings offense, put Sam Darnold under pressure, and make him miss a lot of throws. Now, I think this game will be close, but it's also going to be somewhat high scoring, but not super high scoring. I think this is going to be like a 31-28 final in favor of the Rams, something like that. I just think the Rams, with the way Nakua has been playing lately, Stafford has been on fire lately, and again, this Rams defense that likes to blitz a lot against a Sam Darnold that can't stand the blitz. It's a recipe for disaster for the Vikings, and down goes Skull.
I can't do anything but agree with that. There's nothing else to say, really. I mean, Lions spelled out the recipe for success. Even with the beat up defense, 22 people on IR, you held them to 9 points. I don't care how many throws Sam Darnold is overthrowing a wide open receiver or just having a receiver drop a ball. You're an NFL player. Like, if you're overthrowing a ball to Justin Jefferson, no less, who's wide open in the end zone multiple times, and a de facto playoff game, and in the biggest game of your career, how are you going to do in an actual playoff game, and now truly the biggest game of Sam Darnold's career? They blitzed like hell. He's going to do the same thing. Are the ghosts back? Who knows? He's not throwing it to just no one or throwing it to a DB for no reason. Now, granted, the Lions had a few picks and they didn't get him that game. That being said, that's how close some of these games are in the NFL. You have a play here or there, and momentum shifts and everything else falls into place. The Rams are going to be able to pick this defense apart. I'm not confident in Minnesota with their defense. They gave up 31 points to the Lions and 4 touchdowns to just Jahmyr Gibbs. He got 3 touchdowns on the ground against them. You're telling me at no point they could have made an adjustment and gotten a stop? And again, one of the best run defenses in the league. You couldn't stop Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, don't get me wrong. Jahmyr Gibbs is a fucking monster. At
He's
no
got
point,
that dog in him.
at no point you could have stopped him. You couldn't have stopped him on 4th and 2 in your red zone when you just left him wide open for his receiving touchdown and just walk in. You got to make adjustments, and that falls on the head coach. And if the head coach can't make the adjustments and your players can't make the plays they need to make, you're not going to win the game. I'm going to take LA to win this one, not only because I don't think Minnesota's going to execute. I think Kevin O'Connell's a really good head coach. He's going to try and outplay himself in this one like he did against Detroit. I also think the Rams are playing this one and winning this one for their city because of what they're experiencing.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. If you didn't, I think the Rams are going to be playing very much for their city, and and that's going to, I think, be a big morale boost for this Rams team. They're going to rally around it, and Notre Dame just scored a touchdown. um, sorry. Uh, but yeah, I think they're going to rally around it, and they're going to use that as fuel. They want to win for their city and bring that city some bit of joy while, you know, unfortunately, the world around them burns. So, yeah. So that's going to wrap us up here tonight, guys. We don't really have a lot of shit going on in the NHL or the NBA for that matter. Um,
Don't have any updates for the
and,
Ovechkin watch.
and no, nothing major for the Ovechkin watch. He's still over 20 goals away right now, so it's gonna happen this year. Mark my fucking words. It's gonna happen this year. Um, Maybe not this season, but this calendar year, But I think it's gonna happen this season. But either way, it's gonna happen in this calendar year, regardless, right? But yeah, so
All but guaranteed to.
right. So, anyways, guys, rate, review, subscribe, help us out. Let us know what you guys want to see more of. Of course, follow us on Twitter or X at the Andrew and Ian Show. Check out our YouTube page, guys. Keep sharing the podcast. We're gonna keep on growing this thing. Thank you guys again so much for listening, and we will see you guys on Tuesday.